Hi everybody and welcome into another edition of the SunDevilSource Postgame Show. I'm Ethan Tuttle, joined alongside Chris Cartman. We're here at Mountain America Stadium following Arizona State's loss to the Arizona Wildcats in the Territorial Cup. Chris, Arizona got out to a blazing start, 38-7 at the end of the first half. After that, they went on to win the game 59-23, so the Sun Devils finish their first season with Kenny Dillingham as head coach with a 3-9 record. That's going to be the worst 2 years back-to-back for this program at ASU since World War II. Chris, let's go ahead and jump in with your initial takeaways. Is right out of the gate in this game, ASU kind of marched down the field. Jalen Conyers led the charge and got into the end zone in that Hellcat formation. But after that, it was all Arizona.
Look, it's kind of been a season of high highs and low lows, and a lot more of the lows for ASU, obviously. And they've had some really great defensive performances and then some absolute stinkers. Utah, of course, Oregon last week, and now Arizona. I feel like this team, when it has success early on, it sort of is wind in the sails that then propels it through games. And when that doesn't happen, especially defensively, and you know that you don't have an offense that can put a lot of points on the board, it sort of just is a balloon that pops, and it's all gone. And that happened again in this game. You had that early on, of course, as you mentioned, 75-yard drive. It was 7 runs and a touchdown. Happened because Trenton Bourguet couldn't play tonight due to illness that happened in pregame. But then Arizona moved the ball back down, scored a touchdown as an answer, and from then the route was on. And I think you just have to chalk it up overall to a program that hasn't gotten better within the season due to a myriad factors, which we can get into, but then also playing against some pretty good teams, really good teams. Oregon, Arizona, Utah, they're good teams, and they've been able to exploit ASU's vulnerabilities. Those teams have gotten better and are continuing, and ASU got off to a bad start, injuries and other problems that prevented a lot of practice habits and things within the season, and from there things kind of devolved, and this was a great representation of that tonight.
Starting off with defense for analysis tonight, typically Arizona State has been pretty solid. We talked about how they've had some solid performances, some rough ones, but it just seemed like they could not keep Arizona out of the end zone after that first touchdown. What were some of the factors that went into the Sun Devil defense struggling throughout this game?
Look, bottom line is if you can't get to the quarterback when you rush 4, you're going to have a hard time. This is a very potent passing attack, and the ball gets out quickly. And ASU decided that it was going to play zone coverages and got picked apart, as you said there. They gave up a 3rd and 15 conversion on the second drive, turns into a touchdown. Later they gave up a 3rd and 9 conversion, turns into a touchdown. What we said throughout the year is 3rd and long, ASU needs to get out the field. 4th down, ASU needs to turn the opponent over. They haven't been able to do that. And that, I think, had they had success in those drives early on, that was the thing that could have given them a lift, that pushed them forward. They didn't have success, and then they kind of spiraled from there.
Noah Fifita had a school record, I believe, in passing yards today with 527 yards total, as well as 4 passing touchdowns. What did you make of that performance for the Wildcats offense? They were all over the field, lots of wide receivers making big plays, and it seemed like coverage was a serious issue for the secondary with the Sun Devils.
Yeah, I looked down early in the third quarter, and McMillan, his top target, had 200 and something receiving yards. It was going to be 5 touchdowns in a row, but then he threw the interception here behind us, kind of in the red zone area. He's great. Actually, they're both of those guys are great. Fifita and McMillan, they're teammates from Servite High School. They're still young, so they're going to be around probably for a while doing it. But you know what I think is even more important is their offensive line performed at a very high level. They have a left tackle who's going to be an NFL starter, and they have an ability to prevent pass rush, which has been successful throughout the year for ASU. Pass rush and coverage go hand in hand. ASU decided to play some zone coverages, and their rules were basically taken advantage of. They flooded one side of the field with some verticals, and then they ran these over routes that were underneath of those verticals, and it basically was in spots that were voided out by the coverage. And I felt like tonight that maybe ASU didn't go to more man coverage earlier in the game as much as it could have or should have. Brian Ward's done a pretty good job overall as a coordinator. I happen to like him very much in terms of his scheme and his approach. Tonight I think that maybe they should have gone to more man coverage and just thrown everything in the kitchen sink with some cover zeros and cover 4 looks to try to attack it. They did play cover 4, but bottom line is that once things start to go spiral on this defense, where they're at right now with their year 1 culture and everything, it just kind of gets out of hand.
And it's tough to do anything defensively when you feel like the offense is struggling to get going. And we talked earlier about the quarterback situation. You mentioned Trenton Bourget being sick before the game, not being able to go. Jaden Rashada earlier in the week showed up several minutes late to a team meeting. Kenny Dillingham said after the game in the post-game press conference that he's going to stay by his word, and he's going to enforce those rules no matter the situation. And it was a big situation tonight, not having Rashada maybe out there right away and having that confidence in him. But how much did that maybe limit the Sun Devils offensively tonight against the Wildcats?
Well, we reported yesterday, Friday, Rashada was going to start, and then literally he was late to a team meeting like right after that happened. And it's not good because you script offense at the outset, right? So they had a plan where Bourget was going to be the quarterback first drive, but then ASU goes and scores out of the Hellcat 7 plays without even needing to have a quarterback on the field. So that worked out really well for them. But the problem, though, I think, is that it disrupts your rhythm of what you're trying to do at the outset of the game. And then Rashada was sort of under duress quite often, which is a product of ASU's offensive line being really injured and them having a lot of issues with their ability to pass protect and give a guy time. He's got a big arm. He's a downfield guy, set up play actions and throw vertical shots. He had the beautiful touchdown to Troy O'Meary in the end zone. You see that he has potential, but he's also coming off of a 9-game absence and being thrown out there against a good team. And he was not, of course, being late to the meeting is an issue and all that stuff, but there was really nothing that was going to happen with ASU's offense today, that was going to allow ASU to win that game, given how bad that its defense performed.
What did you think about how the Sun Devil offense kind of rallied late in the game, around the 4th quarter, I believe it was? They started to get that momentum back and rolling. What does that mean for the program and the guys just on the offense still competing in a Territorial Cup rivalry game like this?
They didn't quit, right? I think it was 52-7 with like 9 minutes left in the 3rd quarter, right? And I'm thinking to myself, Jed Fish talked about the billboard that ASU fans put up when ASU beat Arizona 70-7 in 2020 as a reminder for many months. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, it's 52-7, there's lots of time left. Could this turn into that type of a score? And so just the fact that, Jalen Conyer said this after, just the fact that ASU continued to battle, scored a couple times, 2-point conversions, didn't give up, that's an indicator that they're still invested, that they're bought in, that they didn't quit. It's easy to have done so when you know the game's basically over effectively, and then it turns into a even more lopsided than it ended up being. I think Arizona wanted to hang a big number on ASU because of that billboard stuff that Fish pointed out. And obviously it's a blowout, it's destruction of a loss, but not quite as humiliating as it otherwise could have been. And that you can't take a whole lot of solace in that, but it's better than the alternative.
Yeah, absolutely. And with that, let's go into our final kind of discussion here about Kenny Dillingham and just kind of wrapping things up on the season and zooming out on where the program's going to be. Just your kind of first thoughts on the finish to the season. They end up 3-9. So just overall thoughts right now.
Dillingham was really candid in his comments in the press conference after the game. He talked about the need to fundraise immediately. Like everybody thinks, oh, recruiting. The reality is you have to be able to have money in an NIL era to support what you're doing. He said that this is a front runner town. And he said, look, I'm from here. I can say this because I'm from here. If you want to go get excited because the Diamondbacks are in the World Series and go buy a ticket, okay, great, but you didn't need to do anything really to help the Diamondbacks get there. College sports, college football right now is a little bit different. The support comes before the success. So he said, yeah, I can go out recruiting, but my staff's going to do that. I'm going to go fundraise. That to me says a lot about just kind of where they're at and what they have to do in order to be successful at ASU. There's a recognition and an honesty, a candor to that. And then also, he said some very positive things about Jaden Rashada. He said he's a Sun Devil. He wants to be here. He talked about being impressed by how he's kind of handled things. He said he likes his pocket feel. There's attributes that he has that maybe he didn't know that he would have to the degree that he does. And he said that basically they're looking forward to continuing with him. So that's a big thing, right? Because a lot of fans are thinking, is Jaden Rashada going to be here? There's a cynicism that kind of creeps in now, where it's like, oh, okay, even if you have good players, they're just going to leave. That ties in with the NIL and the need for more support. So I thought he was extremely candid about it. And it's a tough sell, and a lot of people are either going to have to decide whether or not they also want to believe in that and support that, or whether they're going to continue to be sort of halfway in on it. And if they're halfway in on it, I hate to say this, but I tweeted this before the game even ended. What has happened, Ethan, at ASU for years, not recently, is that Michael Crow, ASU's president, and Ray Anderson, they supported a sport expansion approach to ASU athletics, try to have as many sports student athletes as possible, moving up to 26 sports. A lot of Big 12 sport teams, colleges have 14, 16, 18 sports, same amount of overall revenue. ASU made a decision that they were going to be middle of the road or even below average in a lot of these areas, recruiting budgets and coaching salaries and other areas in football, which is the one sport that funds everything else that you're doing in ASU athletics. And so their strategy, their approach it proved to be a failure. That's why this is the worst 2-year stretch since World War II, as he said. And the only real way out of this is to try to be successful with getting more players who can help you be more successful. I personally think, and maybe this is like something that people disagree with or whatever, because I'm saying this in a 3-9 season and ASU getting blown out in the Territorial Cup, blown out against Oregon, blown out at Utah. I personally think that Kenny Dillingham does have what it will take to do a good job at ASU if he gets the proper support administratively at the school level and in the community. I think Brian Ward is a pretty good coordinator. I think they can't do it here. But absent those things being developed to the degree that they need to, it is extremely difficult. And this course is something that was set on by Michael Crow and Ray Anderson to the point where ASU athletics sort of has become adrift over a 2-year period. And Dillingham is trying to get the motor in the water to propel ASU forward. And now we're going to find out. NIL got a lot better with Anderson's resignation, doubled in a SunAngel Collective in a very short period of time. And now they're going to have to basically do even a lot better than that in order for them to try to secure the players, both retention-wise and acquisition-wise, to give them a chance to have a much better season next year and beyond.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Chris. That's going to do it for us. Arizona State falls in this one to Arizona in the Territorial Cup, 59-23. Just because the season's over, that doesn't mean we're done. We're still going to keep going, Chris, aren't we? We've got plenty on the way with football still. Recruiting's going to happen. We just talked a lot about NIL. We recently did a podcast with Executive Director Brittany Willett of SunAngel Collective. A lot of good information over there as well, so make sure you check that out. But until then, he's Chris Cartman. I'm Ethan Tuttle saying thank you so much. We'll see you next time.